Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today we're talking breakout players for 2021. We each have three players that we've picked that we think are going to break out from where they finished in 2020 and, really jump up the list next year and become, they could have been fantasy relevant last year, but these are guys we really think are going to become, much more fantasy relevant than they've been in the past. So we each got three players here. We're just going to jump right into this. I don't know who Jeff has. I don't know if we have any overlap. We're going to find out with Jeff. Your first one at number 3 for breakout players.
Number 3. I feel like we have a lot of players we can talk about.
So we're going to keep it short today.
Yeah, short, and we will.
Let's say this is our early breakout list. Yes. I'll say that. We will definitely have a breakout player list, probably like July-ish, I would say. Yeah. And, as we get going.
And we're not going to try to overlap, but
we might.
Yeah, we'll see. My number 3, I should say, is going to be Irv Smith Jr. So tight end for Minnesota. Kyle Rudolph is no longer there. We saw him slowly breaking out already. Last year, he had 30 receptions, 365 yards, 5 touchdowns. That is up from the year before where he had 36 receptions, 311 yards, and only 2 touchdowns. Last year, he did miss 3 games as well. He's an uber athletic tight end that is entering his 3rd year, which is always big for me. Tight ends take a little bit longer to come around. I think he's going to be much more of an intricate part of the Minnesota offense, and we already know that they have wide receivers that people have to cover with Jefferson and Thielen, so I think he is primed to really rule the middle of that field. I absolutely love him for a guy that's going to transcend the tight end position, move up very, very quickly. I think he's going to be a steal. So I really love him to be a breakout player.
Yeah, I'm all for that one. I said we're not going to overlap. I'm going to screw it. I'm overlapping, Jeff. That's my number 3. With Irv Smith Jr.
Don't overlap.
So I'm going to overlap. I'm just going to do it. I don't want to take him off my list.
All right.
So I'm really, I'm with you on this completely. So Irv Smith is still only 22 years old. He turns 23 in August even. As a tight end, that's just one of those things. Tight ends sometimes can take more time to develop, right? We've seen it. Forever we've seen it rarely do they break out early. You can look at Travis Kelce. He took a few years. Darren Waller just finally, he took a few years too. Zach Ertz when he did everybody. They all, except for like Gronk and like a couple players.
Yeah,
like
Gronk,
it's so rare.
Maybe Greg Olsen,
like it's
Kellen Winslow.
It's rare. It just doesn't happen. They usually take this little bit of time and you see them getting better and better and then it just happens. And this year, Kyle Rudolph's gone. That's a huge key. Would Rudolph go to the Giants, I think? Mm-hmm. So he's at the Giants. You have, obviously, you said you have Jefferson, you have Thielen, but that's it, right? That's who the main guys are. And last year, even with Kyle Rudolph took a lot of red zone targets away. He was that kind of player. Irv Smith had 5 touchdowns on only 30 catches. If that increases, which is going to increase, the targets are going to increase. He had 43 targets last year. That is going to increase in a big way. 43 targets, he caught 30 of them. That's a pretty good clip there. And 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns on only 43 targets. And look at it that way. That's a pretty good number right there. You give this guy 100 targets, he's getting 10 touchdowns. He's going to.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
So he gets 10 touchdowns. He becomes one of the top tight ends, a top 10 tight end right away.
Top
easy.
5.
Yeah. That's all it's going to take. And last year, he finished as the 21st tight end last year with 5 of the 5 touchdowns.
It shows how shallow the tight end is.
It shows shallow tight end is and how touchdowns matter so much to that position.
Yes. And
the offense is good. Kirk Cousins is fine as a quarterback, but good running game, 2 good receivers. Now Irv Smith, only being 23 years old, but is in his 3rd year. I don't see how this guy's not a breakout player. He's going to be. And the beauty of it is this is a tight end that you can get. This is your wait on tight end player. You don't pay for them early. You wait on Irv Smith, and actually he's moving up the ranks. Wow, this is higher than he's been. When did this happen? Irv Smith's up to 12.
Is he really? I think he's still a value pick.
He's outside the top 10. He's still great. That last tight. Like he's actually one spot ahead of like Hunter Henry and then Gronk.
And let's be honest, you're not drafting unless you're drafting the top 5. Yep. And even this year it might be a little bit different. I think you can wait on tight end. I think all of these guys will go in a flurry at the end. You can wait until the very last pick. It's going to be great.
Yep, I'm all on board with this one.
All right, so I will go to my number 2 then. And This guy is already, you could probably say he already broke out last year. I'm not going to argue with you. I think he can do even better. I love where he's at. I love everything about it. I'm actually going to put T. Higgins on this one. I think he gets left in the dust a little bit because CeeDee Lamb is a little too high for me already to put him on that list. He did so good, and he has a lot of mouths to feed. It is unbelievable to look at what T. Higgins was able to accomplish in his rookie year. And remember, he did have Burrow, but Burrow got hurt, so he only played 10 games. And then you're working with Kyle Allen, and that offense never really got going. He had 67 receptions for 908 yards and 6 touchdowns his rookie year, and now they don't have AJ Green as well, right? And even though he didn't do that well, he had 100 targets, 100 plus. Mm-hmm. That is definitely not going to one person. So maybe T. Higgins doesn't necessarily inherit all of that, and maybe that stat line. Let me look real quick. He already had 108 targets as a rookie. Yep. He eclipsed what Tyler Boyd was able to do as a rookie. Yep. And so that another year under Burrow's belt, which he should be better, hopefully a full season, he can increase his catch percentage, which was at 62%, not bad by any stretch of the imagination. But, 67 receptions, 108 targets. I think those targets could go up a ton still, which is mind-boggling because who else are they going to throw it to? One of those kind of deals. Because that they're going to have to expand the passing offense on the Bengals. Like, you can give the ball to Mixon a lot, but you're not good enough to get away from the passing game. So who's it going to go to? And who's it going to go to in the red zone even more so? He already caught 6 touchdowns. He's 6'4". He's, as long as he stays healthy, I think this guy is going to be a gem. And no one's going to really look at it that way because he's going to be on a team that is trying to improve. I won't say bad, but trying to improve. They're doing the right things, right? So, he already did pretty decent. I think he was, where did he end?
About 29th last year.
29th. Yeah. So, he was definitely playable. He was great. Yep. And even more so when Burrow went down, there was only one game he caught a touchdown. In 6 games after that, he caught 2 touchdowns. They came in the same game, and it was an overtime game. So it just shows you that even with Kyle Allen or whoever was in the,
Who was their quarterback?
Wasn't it Kyle Allen?
No, I feel like it was somebody else. I'm just completely drawing a blank right now. Now it's going to bother me, so I have to find out.
So, but anyway.
It's definitely somebody who doesn't matter.
I'm going T. Higgins all the way, man. I really love the guy. He's going to be in that gray zone. You can say he already broke out, but I think the sky's the limit for him. And Brandon Allen.
There we go.
Yeah, I got that wrong. I'm sorry. Brandon Allen.
Still, who cares, right?
Even worse.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, even worse. It wasn't anyone that you should be getting thrown to in an NFL game.
So I'm 100% on board with this one, too. So I'm going to try not to overlap now. He was my number 2, Jeff.
You got to be kidding me. No. We truly didn't talk about this either.
We literally had the same. But I have a backup plan. I
literally thought
I have another
both
guy
of us
for
were just going to go 3 running backs.
I actually have I had another guy I was looking at for this spot. But I'm 100% on board with T. Higgins. As a 21-year-old receiver with only Burrow there for part of the time, still, like you said, 108 targets, 67 catches, 908 yards, 6 touchdowns. That's a great season for a rookie.
Yeah. And let me, and even more so, Tyler Boyd got 110 targets, so he eclipsed him by 2, only 2. Mm-hmm. And AJ Green, unbelievably, got 104 targets.
Where?
And only caught 47 of them. So that is an unbelievable piece of the pie that can go elsewhere. So once again, it just shows you. I mean, who else are they going to throw to? It's not going to go to Auden Tate or something like that.
No, I'm on board with this one for sure. So but I got another number 2 here. So another receiver, another second-year receiver, a guy I really like, who's not as not going to be as well regarded right now as T. Higgins is, because T. Higgins is going to be a top 30 receiver on the board this year. So I'm going a little bit further down the board with Laviska Shenault. I love this guy. Oh. So I liked him last year. I was a fan of what he could do, and he does. They would use him in the running game a little bit too. He had 18 carries last year. He ended up with 58 catches for 600 yards, 5 touchdowns. Not bad. Not a bad season. That's in 14 games off 79 targets. Pretty solid. And this year he gets Trevor Lawrence to be his quarterback. Urban Meyer is the coach. Urban Meyer, I feel like, could use this guy somehow. I mean, Ohio State used they use players, these receivers in running game, all over the field. I just feel like Urban Meyer is going to do something interesting with him. And I think he's a really good player. DJ Chark is obviously like their number 1, right? That's who their main receiver is. But Shenault's going to be used in other ways. And I think he's going to end up becoming just relevant, very fantasy relevant this year. He was 51st last year. I think he's a top 30 guy minimum, but I just think he's going to be used in so many different ways. I'm just really interested and curious to see how he's used with Urban Meyer. And I think the Trevor Lawrence thing is just going to bring him up even more. I really like where this is going. And hopefully he can even take some carries away from James Robinson, who I don't like.
I mean, he had 18 carries last year.
Yeah. He was probably one of their second leading rushers.
Sadly enough, it was very close.
So I really like Laviska Shenault, and I think he's just going to be used in a lot of good ways next year. So later this year, I'm really curious to see how this goes. And I think you can get him for a really good value. So I'm going to put him on a lot of my teams. So he's going to be my new number 2 after you stole T. Higgins from me. So.
All right. So I'm going to go with my number 1. And I could name 3 different running backs that I think are going to keep like extending. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the guy that is right now is being rated the lowest of the 3.
Yep.
I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift. So I won't say the other ones in case you pick them because they're worthy of talking about. But I think DeAndre Swift is a huge one. Last year, he had 114 rushes for 521 yards. That would be 4.6 yards a carry. He turned that into 8 touchdowns. He even missed out on a lot of opportunities. He dropped a winning touchdown in the end zone, which I still in my mind. But he showed that he has the talent in order to do that. Now you have Goff. I think you have to rely on the running game a little more than you did last year. Hopefully he's gotten those little, he's gotten used to the NFL game, and he's going to be able to do a lot of the things we saw him do in the NCAA. And he's clearly one of the best weapons they have on offense now, since you don't have Galladay, and you don't have Marvin Jones. So he's not going to be the only running back, but it won't even matter. And on top of that, he's going to get way more than 114 rushes.
Yep.
So last year, I think he ended up as the 20th running back. And right now on Fantasy Pros, I was looking at something else. I should have it pulled up. But right now he is going as the 17th running back. I absolutely love him. Yeah, I absolutely love him at this value, because after that, you're going to guys that are either unproven or splitting carries or on. I mean, you can't really get worse than the Lions, but they're gonna desperately need him. So I love DeAndre Swift. I think he's a guy that is going to break out in a big way. And really, those numbers that I told you, the fact that he was ranked the 20th running back showed how crazy of a year it was for running back once again. There was a lot of injuries, and that is a kind of a misnomer, because if you only rush for 500 yards, it's hard to believe that you got that high. So anyway, he's my number 1 right now.
So I'm going to go with one of those other running backs.
Good.
So like you said, and for me, it's going to be J.K. Dobbins.
Yep.
So before I talk about Dobbins, I guess I should talk about, I'm going to say something about Akers real quick, just because he's the other one, right? I feel like he's getting overrated.
He was the other one I was going to talk about too, but
I think Cam Akers is overrated.
He's already ranked as an average as 10th.
He's overrated.
Yeah, that's crazy.
This is another episode for later on, but I think the Cam Akers hype is getting a little over much. It's just too much. For Cam Akers had one good regular season game. It was a really good one. He had 29 carries, turned it into 171 yards. It's a really good game. It's the playoffs is what people are remembering. He had 2 solid playoff games, 28 for 131 touchdown, 18 for 98 touchdown. He played well, but he didn't do, the last regular season game, he was 21 carries for 34 yards. I don't know. I think he's okay. Yeah, I never thought he was as good as these other backs coming into that last year anyway. Dobbins and Swift, I thought, were much better. And
I was kind of a Cam Akers hater.
He was like my 4th or 5th guy. I can't remember.
And the fact is, he couldn't. I shouldn't say he couldn't. At the end of the year, he finally, I would say, won the job. But there was 2 other guys. It wasn't like battling him and one other guy. It took a while
for him to beat out Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson.
And listen to those names. That took him a long time to beat those guys out. And also, their passing game wasn't all that good. They needed to use everyone. So I think that is definitely saying something.
It's going to be interesting.
I do 100%, even though J.K. Dobbins is ranked 11th, I'm 100% in agreement with you. And that's the only reason I went Swift, because right now he's ranked at 17th.
And I think Cam Akers could be a solid fantasy player. I'm not saying that, but J.K. Dobbins I think actually can be special.
I would. So. And Cam Akers would be 3rd. He would be behind DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins and a bunch of the other guys that happen in between. Like Austin Eckler is lower than Cam Akers right now. How in the world is that working?
And I'm really not just saying this because I traded him away to James in our league, and James can keep him this year. I'm not just saying it because of that. So
anyway,
so Dobbins. I mean, he was splitting time too. He was splitting time with Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards, who have been good. Gus Edwards is an underrated player, I feel like, in the NFL. Mark Ingram is gone. He is gone. He's no longer there. Dobbins he was at 134 carries last year. He's going to get up to 200 this year. He was 134 carries for 805 yards and 9 touchdowns. 6 yards per carry, too. Top that up. 6 yards per carry and 9 touchdowns on only 134 carries. That's really good. And, I mean, he plays with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is going to steal some from him, right? Yeah, he's going to. But I don't know if he's going to steal a lot. Lamar Jackson's not going to be running the ball on the goal line all the time, right? It's just not going to happen. But just the threat of Lamar Jackson is going to help J.K. Dobbins. And I think he's a special running back. I really do. I think 11 is, honestly, 11 to me is almost too low. I would say it's too low. I mean, he should be ahead of Akers. There's a lot of good running backs ahead of that. Yeah. So that's where it's hard to get him ahead of that just because those other guys are good. Yes. Truly, the guys ahead of him would be then, for me, I'll just go 9 to 1. Zeke, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Kamara, Barkley, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey. Okay, yeah. I can see him.
Yeah, I would actually take J.K. Dobbins over a couple of those guys, but I think he's correctly valued.
I think 10 is a good spot for him, and to me he's ahead of Akers. I just think this guy's special. He's going to be on a. I think the Ravens are a good team. They're going to find their way hopefully again this year. Did they just sign? Did they just sign Sammy Watkins? Is that who Sammy went to? Yeah, so Sammy Watkins, we didn't talk about that because that signing didn't happen. So Sammy Watkins is now he's going to just help the Ravens become a great offense. Okay, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, they needed a wide receiver. I'm so lukewarm on Watkins. I hope.
Actually, I think it'll help him. I actually,
it won't hurt him, but you know, it's not.
I'm just a big J.K. Dobbins fan, and he showed it last year to me that this guy can be really good. I mean, I still honestly, I don't know. I don't see why Akers has had a J.K. Dobbins.
He shouldn't be.
It's because people are thinking he's going to split time yet with Gus Edwards, and there's still Lamar going to take carries away. And Akers is the guy. And getting Stafford there. Now, Stafford is just like the savior, it feels like, which I'm kind of being a little bitter on this one. But if he does it with the Rams, man, I'm just, But no, that's another day. But I don't know. Dobbins is better than Akers for me. So we both agree these guys are better than Akers. Akers is getting overrated.
Yes. And on top of that, because I don't know why I'm so highly invested in J.K. Dobbins as well. But he only caught 18 balls last year, which is mind-boggling to me. I mean, I feel like that could be a wrinkle in that offense that is desperately needed. Yep. And just to show you the breakdown as well, Lamar is their leading rusher, right? He had 159 attempts last year for 1,000 yards. It didn't feel like it because he didn't do it. You know, he was so dominant the year before. Yep. After that, J.K. Dobbins was he was actually the third. I'm sorry. He had the second most yardage, but he had 134 attempts. Gus Edwards had 144.
Yeah, Gus Edwards, he's not going away.
No, he's not going away. But
Dobbins is just better.
Mark Ingram is going away. He has 72. And maybe someone else, jumps in there, Justice Hill, whoever it may be at this point. Maybe that takes it away. But I do feel like this is the moment where J.K. Dobbins gets I really feel I don't want to say 200 because I think that's a little too bullish.
I think he can get there.
I think he could, but I'm going to say I think it's pretty safe to say he gets 175 carries. And look at the clips these people are doing because of Lamar in the backfield. J.K. Dobbins was already averaging 60 yards a carry after 134 attempts. Gus Edwards, he is an underrated guy, but he's a power back for sure. He was averaging 5. Mark Ingram did not look like himself, and he was averaging 4.2. Yep. So I think this is a huge place where he could, if they give him the carries and the reps, which I think they will, he is going to be a beast.
I don't see why he can't be Mark Ingram from 2 years ago. Ingram got 202 carries that year. Lamar had 176 and Edwards had 133. I think he can do that. I think he can get to 200 right there.
I did too. Yeah.
All right. That's it though for breakouts today. We almost had an identical list. We could have, but
yeah, you could have.
So that just shows these are the guys to go with.
I honestly thought we were just going to go. Hey, it's Cam, it's Swift, it's JK.
It could be, but no, we got some good.
I love Irv and T Higgins, so I wanted to talk about.
All right, that's it for today. Talk to you guys next time.